one. Hey, Crystal, how are you?
Hey, I'm good, and you?
I'm good. It's good to see you. Good to see you.
You as well.
Very excited about our program today. Some pretty interesting topics that I don't quite talk about in this way. I think I said that last time too. So, how about this? I will welcome everyone to our broadcast, Conversations on the Patio with Crystal and Jevon. And I'm a licensed retirement plan advisor, and my friend and colleague Crystal is a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm going to read your bio, and then we can jump right in. How's that?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so please, everyone, welcome Crystal Mitchell. She is a business coach and consultant. She's the CEO of Mitchell Business Solutions, a co-director of Recycling Black Dollars. She's a co-host of the Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert, that other weekly online radio show. She's an instructor at Mount San Antonio Community College, a certified network for teaching entrepreneurship instructor, and a QuickBooks Pro Advisor financial strategist. Hello, Crystal. Happy belated Women's Day, and thanks for joining us.
Awesome. And thank you for acknowledging the Women's Day thing.
I happen to like women, you know.
Oh, good thing.
My mom was a woman. I have two sisters that are women. They're cool people. I like women.
Yeah. I know how we are kind of cool like that.
Cool like that. Cool like that. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm glad to be here. Spent my weekend in Indian Wells with the tennis world, and I had a fantastic time and got to see Naomi Osaka play.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now, how close to Palm Springs is that?
Right on the other side. It's in Indian Wells, so it's Palm Desert. All of those are right in that Indio. All of those little areas are right there close together. But Indian Wells is on I think a little bit on the opposite side, because when you come in from a different, you can literally take the 10 all the way in, as opposed to doing a diversion over to the Palm Springs. So, but had a good time. We took our whole youth tennis program down there. There's like 60, probably it's about 70 of us. Got to meet the lady that runs the BNP. So that's the Open, the BNP Paribas Open. And it was cool. And I didn't get to see everybody, but every tennis player that's playing on the circuit right now was there.
Yes, I actually went on a walk with a friend of mine who actually did that. I want to say maybe last weekend, perhaps.
Yeah, it started last weekend.
Okay. And she got to see, I can't remember the gentleman's name, the Spanish player that is just.
With an N. Couple of them with ends. But yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah, he wasn't there this weekend, but Novacek was there this weekend, and Coco Gauff was there, and Venus was there, and Sloane Stevens, and a number of other very prominent players. I think Venus had played on that Friday, so it was awesome.
Venus was still playing tennis?
Yeah, Venus is Serena is the one that retired.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Amazing. Well, glad you made it back safely. Did you get to see any wildflowers?
No, I did not. We just went straight to the tennis court and was there for 2 sessions. We had the privilege of being there for 2 sessions, and we just hung out there until dark and stayed overnight, and then came back home yesterday.
Oh, cool. Good deal. Well, good for you. Sounds like a great trip. Great time.
It was.
Okay, well,
so we got a good topic today.
Yes, we do. I think so. Let's jump right in. These are this came up because I was sitting in one of those places, I like to hang out where they have liquor, and so I was hanging out there. And of course, we have all kinds of interesting conversations. And a gentleman said to me, after we figured out what we do for a living, that he had a pension, and that a pension is much better than a 401k plan. And I said, oh, and of course, given his reasoning, I have to say, yeah, you're right. If someone else is going to take the responsibility of paying for your retirement and also take the responsibility of guiding that payment, then that's a pretty good deal if you can get it. The problem is that about 65% of Americans have access to a 401k, whereas about 15% of Americans have access to a pension plan. So, unfortunately, it really isn't up to us as to whether we can get one or the other, right? It's something decided by the company. But it was a really interesting conversation, and I came away with that thinking, okay, how is it that a 401k plan can really compete with a pension plan?
Okay.
Yeah. Kind of tough.
Ideas out there in that place that sells those drinks,
Indeed. And it's pretty tough. I mean, if you've got someone who's going to take care of business, then you pretty much better take them up on it. I mean, it is a good way to go. The only downside, and I don't even know if it really is a downside, is that you know what it's going to be. And maybe that's enough, maybe it's not. It's not really determined by the market. It's actually determined by what that company can afford. And so if that company goes out of business, what are you going to do? The good thing is you can take your pension with you, just like you can with a 401k plan. And I think lots of people, because you don't lose your pension, lots of people start their second chapter or maybe even their third chapter with their pension in place. And that gives them an opportunity to start that business with confidence, which is a pretty cool way to go. I can't argue with that. However, I don't sell pensions.
So we're going to kind of focus on the 401k, but in comparison, right?
I sell company-sponsored retirement, employer-sponsored retirement plans. And so we've got three main topics I want to focus on today to help participants get the most they can, so that when you have that fight between you, the 401k person, and the pension person, at least if you're going to lose, you can say, but I can do the best I can do to make it happen. So here we go.
Now, what is the actual differences between, for our audience that doesn't know, what is the difference between having a pension plan versus a 401k plan?
That's such a good segue. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
The main difference is, and we still have pension plans nowadays, essentially. I don't sell that many of them, but especially for entrepreneurs that only have themselves or small partnerships or small companies, I tend to sell quote unquote pension plans for them. I've only sold one for a large organization. Pension plans are what we call today defined benefit plans. That is, you as the employee understand what your benefit is going to be once you retire. And you've got specific rules as to when you can collect it. You have to be a certain age, work for the company for a certain amount of years, and you get this result. X amount of dollars for the rest of your life. So you can imagine, depending on the size of the company that you work for, a pension can be quite the drain on a company's resources, right? So your company has to be dramatically successful in order to fulfill that obligation of paying you for the rest of your life, a particular amount of assets, which, if we understand our history a little bit, became it became a big contention back in the 70s and the 80s, I want to say. Now, don't quote me on that. Don't send me cards and letters, but I want to say back in at least the 70s, that became a big contention for American businesses that were having to compete worldwide. And they were saying that they could not compete and provide that pension, right? Whereas other companies or in other countries, the government was providing the pension for their folks. And so that gave those folks an advantage. So introduction through some things, not specifically, but introduction of the 401k plan, where you as the employee don't really know what your outcome is going to be. So you get to define the contribution, that is the amount that you're going to put in, but you don't get to define the benefit, that is the amount that you're going to take out, right? So with a pension plan, we call it a defined benefit because you know as an employee how much you're going to take out. The company has told you, if you fulfill these characteristics, you're going to get X amount of dollars for the rest of your life. Defined benefit, it's defined for you. In the case of a 401k, we call it a defined contribution because you, the employee, you get to determine how much you're going to put in, and then the market forces will determine how much actually is there. So on the one hand, I would say number one, with regard to a pension, the employee has little to no responsibility. None, right? However, with a defined contribution or 401k or 403b, 457, the employee has all the responsibility. The employee determines how much they're going to put in. They determine how they're going to allocate those investments. They determine when they're going to take the money out, right? They determine how long they're going to leave it in and if they want to manage that portfolio. So with a pension plan, you have a professional manager, hopefully someone who knows what they're doing, and they manage those assets and you get paid for the rest of your life. And there you go, right? So a dramatic difference. I would say that depending on that organization that offers that pension plan, I would still invest your money in an IRA if you can, because as much as people like the idea of a pension plan being X, it's very possible that something can happen and the company that's providing that pension plan may say, you know what, we made that deal in 1987, times are different, we need to change that deal. What are you going to do? Or if you happen to be working for a state organization, the state may say, well, the voters of XYZ state are paying the bill now. Back in the day, they paid the bill and it was fine, we can handle it. But now things are different. So we can't really handle that bill. And you, the employee, may vote and say, you know, you made us the deal. That's why we're here, because we were counting on this. And the realities of the world, as you know, they change on you. So to have some control is a good thing. So even if you have a pension, and you can say, as my new friend was saying, it doesn't go down, Jevon. It just stays the same.
So that means they have no contribution. They add nothing to that pension plan. That's strictly coming from their employer.
Yes. You know, we could say, oh, I have to pay some dues. Oh, I have to do this. I have to do that. But for the most part, the employer is either making the majority contribution or so much of the contribution that the employer controls the investment, right? And so the real key thing is that most of the investment or all of the investment is controlled by the employer, and the employee knows they have a defined benefit. They know what that end result is going to be. Like back in the day, we had you would work for a company for, 30 or 40 years, and you would total up your last three or your three greatest earning years. You take that, you get the average of those last three, you get 75, you divide that by 75% or multiply it by 75%. And that's what you get, right? You know what you're going to get when you leave the organization, and you're going to get it for life.
Okay.
So that's a pension. We know what we're going to get. We know how we're going to get there. All we need to do is put our time in. I would say good for you if you can do that. But like I said, at the top of the show, only 15% of working Americans have that option. The rest of us?
Yeah. And companies are so different than they used to be 30, 40 years ago, when I think they were more employee centric. Now they're a little bit. I mean, I had fantastic benefits when I first started working, and then I did not. after 10 years in, 15 years in, 20, like, oh, wait, what happened to all the wonderful benefits that I had? So I don't know. I'm just
Right.
saying now and then different.
I think you're right. I think, and we'll get to these three here, but I think it's a good point to make that it seems to me that our economy, maybe because I'm getting older versus when I was a child, but our economy determines much in our life as
Yeah.
to what's going on, right? So depending on market forces, that can determine how companies react to clients. And companies are living, breathing organisms. They grow, they change, they decrease, they do all kinds of things. And so in order to maintain competitiveness, your company may decide to do one thing or another. Even in the defined contribution world, a company could decide, you know what, we used to offer 100% match up to 10%. We're going to go back to the safe harbor. We're going to go back to, the traditional 5 and 4, or whatever it is. So things can change. And I think it does us well to understand that. If you have a good deal, keep it, but don't get too comfortable with it. As I used to tell my colleagues, always keep your resume up to date. You just never know what's going to happen. Right?
That's true.
Okay, let's jump right in. So we've got three things we're going to deal with. The first is the match. The second is expenses. And the third is, I was positive because I wrote in my notes here, invest cheap. And the third thing is consider the Roth. So number one, get the match. Okay, I'm just going to say it right here and now. And please don't send those horrible cards and letters. But when you get right down to it, it is not your employer's job to pay for your retirement. That's your job. So if they're going to offer you a match, take it. It is not free money. It is money that your employer is providing you for your services rendered. So if you do not take the match, you're in effect saying to your employer, I don't need that money, you just keep it. So get the match. If you do nothing else, get the match. If you only invest enough to get the match, right? There's no equivocation there. Get the match. That's number one.
Okay.
Number two is, and you might remember this from the 4 Ps of investing that we did a few months ago with regard to price, right? I think the price of an investment is a very important thing. So if you have 2 investments and you can't decide which one, and they both have the similar amount of people running the plan, then choose a cheaper one. Yeah. So invest cheap. And so for many of us, that means sprinkle part or some, or maybe even all of your investments inside your 401k in an index fund. You can save some money that way, right? They're based on the market rather than a fund manager. I will caution you, though, that as someone who helps people determine what investment is correct with them, 70% of managers do not outperform the index that they're trying to beat. So that's one. 2, 30% do. Some people do. So depending on your investment profile and how you like to roll, investing in an index fund is a great thing to do, but investing in a non-index fund can also be good. It really depends upon you. So, but for the most part, number 2 is invest cheap. Go cheap. And then the last one that I wanted to talk about, and I imagine you probably have a comment. The last one is, especially now, consider the Roth. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say, consider the Roth section of your 401k. Please don't call it a Roth 401k. Just please don't hurt me. Just call it the Roth section.
I was going to say, do they even know that animal exists?
There's no such thing as a Roth 401k. Don't do that. You have the traditional 401k and you have the Roth section of that 401k. So how does it work? All right. So we know how the traditional one works. You put your money in at the age of 59 and a half, you can start taking that money out. If you take the money out before 59 and a half, not only will you be taxed, but you'll be penalized. We all know how that goes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then now the retirement or the required minimum distribution age is 73. So when you reach 73, you'll have to take what's called a required minimum distribution. That's where the government, the feds say, hey, we want you to take a small amount of your monies out of that 401k and
Mm-hmm.
we're going to tax you on that. So that's the traditional 401k. The Roth section of your 401k allows you to put money in after tax. So it's like if you went down to the grocery store, you already got your paycheck and you pay for some bread. That's after tax, right? So you're buying that investment after tax. It grows what we call tax free. Right? Tax free. So,
Okay.
so when you reach the age of 59 and a half, you can pull that money out of your retirement plan. There will be no taxes to pay because you've already paid taxes on that plan. So you don't pay taxes on the growth. You don't pay taxes on the contribution. You just pull your money out and have a good time with it. So which one should you do? It's a good question. And to date, I haven't found a solid rule of thumb except for these three things that we want to keep in mind. If you know that you're going to make more money after you retire than you made before you retire, then definitely invest in the Roth.
Okay.
It can reduce your tax liability. If you think that, in my opinion, if you think that you may not get the benefit once you retire, if you think that, as much as we love our government, they're going to get that Roth money. If you think that, then I would say get your benefit now, that is pre-tax, right?
Okay.
Because you can always determine how much you're going to pull out, right? So you don't have to pull everything out at the same time. And then I think an even more prudent step may be to have some investments in the Roth and some investments in what we call pre-tax. So traditional and Roth section of your 401k. The benefit of that is once you retire, you can determine what your tax liability is going to be. So for example, while you're younger, you may want to use up those Roth monies until you get to an older place to where your tax liability is even less, and then you can pull monies out of your pre-tax monies. But you can always use the Roth to determine or to lessen what your tax liability is if you decide to pull both of those out. I think the most important thing out of all these three, so if I can add a number 4 to the list, which I think is most important, is make a plan for your retirement. Make a plan for the distribution, right? Talk to your financial advisor and say, okay, how do I make this work? And I would also say, if you're working at a company where you have the opportunity to invest in a 401k plan, because not everybody does, call that person up 5 years before you retire and ask them to help you determine how you're going to transition into retirement, and then what does retirement look like after that. It's going to be well worth your time and your money to do that and to settle your mind. So as you always remind me, make a plan.
Make a plan. Make a plan. I mean, and I have friends that are in that retirement place, and they've worked for corporate America, and not those of us that are entrepreneurs, because we probably be crawling into wherever our remote place of work is. We ain't never gonna stop working, right? But however, those are my friends that work still in the corporate world. They're coming to that place where they're starting to retire, and I have this conversation, and they're clueless.
Hmm. Well, I have plenty of folks that are ready to help them. So if you know of someone that needs that help, let me know, and I can refer them to some really good people
Okay.
who have, various levels of experience. And one of the reasons why I encourage women and minorities and old people and preachers and whoever the heck else I can find to get into this business is because the people that we serve are women and old people and preachers and all kinds of people that you don't know or who you do know that are in this business. And it's good to connect with someone,
Yeah.
really
And
good.
somebody that you can feel that you can trust. And I think that sometimes it comes down to the fact that they don't trust everyone, right? And rightfully
And they
so.
shouldn't. Yeah.
So being able to have a trusted somebody in your community that this is not the only advice you've received from them, and so they have history with you. So that's a really good thing because once you retire, we've talked about this on this program on this show before. The things that affect your post retirement that you don't give thought to, like your health care and what happens if you get ill, or you want to be where your grandkids are, or something, or any of that. One of
Yes.
the spouses, your spouse gets sick, and you don't have monies for caregiving. Just so many things that are affected that we don't always think about in the broadest sense of terms. And then you guys do, though, because you're working with people every single day that something has affected their retirement plan. And these people have plans.
Yeah, that's so true. And I would just add to that, and I'll let you get the last word, but I would just add to that you do not have a unique story. I don't care who you are, your story is not unique. We have heard it all before. We've heard it all before, and we've dealt with it all before. So bring it. Bring all that dirt, all that grit, and let's sit down and talk about it. I happen to help people that are getting close to retire or that are contributing to their retirement side, and I get involved in those questions about transition, and I get involved in those questions about decumulation, we call it,
Mhm.
right? That's the thing now. But I do focus mainly I
Only,
do
huh?
focus mainly on folks that are accumulating.
Okay.
We better get out of this show, Crystal. I can't talk anymore. I need some help.
The slip of the tongue. That's all right.
All right. So how about if I give you the last word and then we
I'm
can.
gonna have to end it like we usually end it. Plan. But most importantly, speak to someone that is a retirement plan advisor. Not 6 months, not 10 days before you're about to retire. Give it a couple. Everybody knows when that 65 or 67 or 72 or whatever that magical age is for you. You know it's coming. So give that person a conversation. Call that person like 2 years, 5 years beforehand so that you have time to make some adjustments. You do not have time to make adjustments when you're like 2 months away from retirement. You really don't.
Well said. Well, let's end it right there. You I can't top that. That is
Okay.
awesome. Thank you, Crystal, for being on the show. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. It has been fantastic chatting with you, and we'll be back next time to take a look at this same topic, but from the employer's point of view. So, bye now.
Bye bye, everyone.